So Central Cee is undoubtedly one of the UK's most well-established and popular rappers of the moment. Central Cee has managed to break down a barrier that so many UK artists before him couldn't, gain huge popularity overseas and in particular the US. There have been various UK artists who have made waves overseas, but nothing to the magnitude of Central Cee's popularity. Having collaborated with some of the biggest artists in the world and landing multiple songs with Drake, it's clear Central Cee is here to stay. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly why Central Cee's production has enabled him to go further than any other UK rapper and show you some techniques from his music that you can use for your own production. Make sure to sub and drop a like, and let's get straight into it. So as of late, Central Cee's melodies have had that real R&B influence. Jumping on the sexy drill trend, Central Cee has used beats from Cash Cobain, who was the pioneer of that sexy drill sound, and has also featured a lot of new R&B in his beats, sampling artists like Bryson Tiller or Brent Fires, for example.
Beat from Cash, not from YouTube.
Yo, half of the hood still hate me crazy, half of the hood still vouching. Day that you're on me, a big man pull up. I hate when they talk about the tea, only grams of the white that you're seeing is sugar. Bad one smiling at me and a...
So a lot of these R&B sexy drill style beats start with samples, but I wanted to show you how you can make something completely from scratch. So I started with some simple R&B chords and an ambient pad to set the tone. So I set the BPM to 142 beats per minute and laid down some simple 7th chords to create that R&B progression. And if I remove this accent note here and I move this inversion back up, you'll see it's a simple D sharp minor 7 into a G sharp minor 7, and then a bit of a variation of a diminished chord with some notes I've moved around. And it also played with the bass notes ever so slightly just to add a little bit of variation. And so for the second half of the progression, I pretty much just copied it over and again just played with the inversions. Like here I dropped down a D and just added some extra notes like the G up here. And that was just a textured preset I'd made in Pigments and brought over to Analog Labs. And I think that last diminished chord really adds the tension and gives that R&B feel. And I think adding those little extra notes in just really adds a lot of tension and just give you way more texture than just the regular 7th chords. So with this as the foundation, I really wanted that sample vibe. So I grabbed a couple of vocals from Splice to layer over the top of the chords. I really wanted one of the vocals to have some sort of UK influence. So I added a standard R&B vocal and then another one to add that kind of garage bounce. And these were just found on Splice, but I thought they sounded really nice stacked together. And so once I had that foundation, I stacked the chords again with a texture layer. I added a multi-keys from Keon and that just gave me so much more texture and much more of a sampled vibe. So after that, I wanted to add a counter melody. So I grabbed a lead from Analog Labs and put together this super simple progression. And that was just following notes in a chord progression, as you'll see from the ghost notes. And that last note there just adds that tension from the last diminished chord. Then I just added a step shifter on there just to give some interesting artifacts and texture. So I moved this glide knob here and that just adds some really interesting slides and it just gives melodies way more character. And it's just little pieces of ear candy like that that just kind of stack up and yeah, just add to the bigger picture. And I added another simple counter melody here, and that was just a simple pluck from Analog Labs, and I'd essentially just processed it, added some delay and a little bit of panning. And again, super simple, but it's just nice to have various different options for when you're arranging, to have another section that can keep the sample evolving and progressing over time, so that when you're going on from this section into that next section, it's just changing it up ever so slightly, just for a bit of variation really. And the final thing I added was this moody bass from Analog Labs. The progression is just following the bass notes of the melody and leaving a little bit of space here and there. was pretty much the sample. So all I did was arrange a few different sections and then stemmed it out. And then before I rendered it out, I'd mastered it, added a fruity limiter on it, and then just pitched it down 300 semitones, which was sounding like this. Before adding any drums, I'd pitch the melody up 7 semitones, and that's to get that kind of chipmunk vocal sound you hear in a lot of Central Cee songs. I think when you pitch melodies up quite drastically as well, you get that really interesting textured feel like it actually is a real sample. And then after that, I start with the drums, just trying to get the bounce right. So Central Cee's music obviously has that drill influence, but his drums are way more commercial and less sharp than his older, more conventionally aggressive drill sounding drums. These drums are way better fitting for that R&B vibe and is a lot more accessible to a larger, more mainstream audience that Central Cee now has. With that said though, you still can hear some of those conventional drill sounds throughout the percussion and some FX as well. So with that in mind, I laid down a simple, sexy drill style, spacey snare hi-hat progression, following that kind of triplet bounce you'd hear in a lot of sexy drill. I then accompanied that foundation with some simple percussion, triangle, cowbell, and some accent percussions just to create that bounce. Then I also added an open hat, stacked another snare, and added some subtle drill FX just to give that sexy drill vibe. So for the low end, I wanted to get a little bit more creative and use a variation of 808s. Lately, in a lot of UK rap, you can hear that experimental approach to the low end, taking influence for a lot of that kind of new jazz or Benny X style production. To get that feel, we have 4 basses, we've got a spins, we've got a variation of a Zay, we've got a log bass, and then a Moog sub bass. Essentially all I was doing here was just adding a little bit of variation and creating some unique texture, and so each element kind of adds its own feel. I took inspiration from Central Cee's recent song Booger, which has that experimental approach to the low end. So with those elements in place, we had enough to cover the chorus and then a verse section and a bridge. But I thought it'd be cool to take it one step further and just add another section where Central Cee could switch it up a little bit. So to add a bit more of a kind of conventional drill vibe, I added a second verse here where I switched up the pattern. I pitched the whole sample down a whole octave here. I added sounds here which are a little bit more drill influence and a little bit more of a standard drill progression. And I added a different 808 and a bit more of a hard hitting punchy kick, a bit more like you'd hear in one of Central Cee's old beats. And then just some simple transition effects and also some hi-hat rolls in there as well, just to kind of get that different feel. And so the brief idea behind this section was kind of like taking a detour from the beat, maybe introducing some new inspiration for the artist to rap over, and then going back into the chorus, all those familiar sounds we had before, just to round it all off. And I just removed some of the low end and just bled it back into the bridge and then back to the chorus, and that's pretty much the end of the beat. So I hope you guys learned something from this breakdown to use in your own music. For me, Central Cee's recent run has been super inspiring as someone from the UK. It's really cool to see UK rap rising on the map globally, and I definitely think Central Cee is the one to take it further than it's ever been before. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. It helps out way more than you think. And check out the video on screen which breaks down why UK artist Nem's production is so popular right now.